What's up, gamers? Oh my goodness, my stream is not working. I'm gonna... Alright, hold tight while I fix this. This is ridiculous. I don't know why Streamlabs does this all the time. It hates me, bro. It hates me. Whatever. You guys can watch me fix it while I talk about this, because I can't stay here all day. But basically, what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about sleep schedules. Yippee! And so I think this is very fitting because I got like no sleep last night. Like low key, I'm like dying right now. But you know, it's fine. We're gonna push through. So what I wanted to talk about sleep schedules with is, so there's a lot of things that like we see sleep schedules as very like deterministic. Like I don't like this thing that we do as a society where we're like, oh well, I could have a good sleep schedule, but you know I can't because like I'm a night owl, or like, oh no, I can't because like my friends and everything that stay up late and everything, so like I literally can and everything, and I'm just like, and I'm like, frankly, it comes off as insensitive a lot of the time. Very fair, but I'm kind of like, I'm gonna kind of gonna challenge that, tbh. Okay, we're good with the stream. So I'm gonna kind of challenge that notion if I can. Um, and so I think a lot of people. So to be clear, not everyone can have a healthy sleep schedule. Like sometimes, in order to live a certain life, you need to have a bad sleep schedule, and sometimes that's just what you need to do, whether or not it's like part of your dharma or something, or whether or not it's part of other stuff. Um, and so you know, sleep schedules are very important for many reasons. So when we sleep, it basically consolidates our memories from the day. So like, you know, like you basically would not commit anything to like long-term memory if you didn't sleep on it. That's what, so like sometimes you'll like study a lot and then like you'll kind of like end the day and you'll be like, I barely learned anything. I don't remember anything that happened. And then at the and then you know, at the end of the day you'll be like, I didn't learn anything, and then you'll go to bed and then you'll be like, oh wait, I remember everything actually. Like like I actually, like, now that I think about it, like I don't know how it's like almost like the information like downloaded, almost like a software that you started running before you actually went to bed. And like that's like intentional. Like so the brain literally like will download stuff into your mind, and like so people will just think that they're slow learners or that they're like slow on the uptake for certain things, but like it's actually just because like they do not get enough sleep to actually download all of the stuff that they need into like their long-term memory. Um and so like first thing I want to say, I so like I've like, once again, take everything I say with a grain of salt. I could totally be wrong about this stuff, but I have done research, like personal research into sleep patterns and everything like that. From like their biological angle, from their clinical angle, from just like everything like that. And like, so, and my conclusion is that like, with very very slight caveats of like biologicalness, especially like if you're like a teenager and stuff, like there's like different, you have, this is a little bit different for you. It's a little bit different, but it is not enough for me to like be like, oh well, then don't take anything I say to art. Like generally you are not like inherently a night owl or an early bird. Like circadian rhythms, people heard the term circadian rhythms and they're just like, oh, like, okay, I get it. So that means that like I could never so like I can't control whether or not I get up at this specific time or anything like that. That is not what I mean. Like you're not born with it. It's not like a birthmark. Like it's like your, all that means is that you were born with a specific, you do, like you throughout your life sleep at different times, and all this means is that your body adjusts to have an internal clock that says like, we should do this at this time, we should do this at this time and stuff. And like there are times that you could argue that like we should be getting up more, like because like at things like dawn when there's sunrise, like our even our eyelids, like we let little bit of light in. Why is that? Because like it wants us to sense this daylight, and so that way we like know to get up. Um, but like this in no way just means like oh I need to that this in no way means like oh I just need to um like I can't help it. I like need to get up at this specific time and everything like that because like I was born this way. No, it's literally just like your body has adjusted to be like to give you signals that's like okay, now's when we need to eat, now's when we need to go to bed, this is when our attention is going to be, and that's evolutionary. So like if we so if if we as a society or as individuals rather um if we had a job in our society where we needed to be like a night owl, where we could only do the job at night. Think of like police officers or something. Like if we only had police officers from like noon to midnight, that might turn out a little bad. Um and so like so there's some things that we just need to do that. And so our body is adjusting to to be like, oh okay, so you tend to go to bed at this time, you tend to wake up at this time, that makes sense, so I'm gonna like I'm gonna accommodate that. I'll make sure that you feel more awake at night and that you get tired during the day, because imagine if you had to stay up for night and you were exhausted so you couldn't do your job properly, and then you were super awake during the day because it's like, oh, it's daytime and you biologically have to do that. And so like that doesn't make sense. So like, typically um whenever people tell me that like it's like, oh well, I'm just like I can't wake up early, like I just can't do it and stuff, I ask them details about their lifestyle and like when they do things like drink caffeine and stuff like that, and it actually always makes like perfect sense why they are it actually makes absolute sense why they're like why they stay up so late and why they can't wake up that early. It's because like it's just like you stay up all night and then like you wonder like, oh, I just can't, I don't know why, I just can't bring myself to wake up early. I'm like born this way. I'm like, no, you're not. Like you're literally not. Anyone can change um their internal clock to be a certain way. It just might take time, and it might require you to do things like go on like a caffeine detox and stuff like that. Like I'm not very knowledgeable on caffeine detoxes, so I don't know if they're dangerous or anything. So like definitely do your research on that. I'm not sure that they are, but I'm also not sure that they aren't. So I don't feel comfortable making any statements on that. Um, and so yeah, like so if you just see things about sleep schedules and you're like, well, that doesn't work for me because like my body just will not get up at that time, it's like, well, think about when you have caffeine and everything. Think about things like um um think about things like how late do you stay up? Why do you stay up? How much stimulation is going through your brain? How do you prepare for bed? Like, are you on your phone the entire time? Are you like this and stuff? How do you wake up is very important. Like, do you just go on your phone immediately? Like, there's all these different factors. So once we understand that sleep schedules are changeable, we also need to understand that like this comes with a bit of like commitment and decision making. Um, um, this comes with a lot of decision making because like a lot of people are like, I don't want to go to bed early because like my friends are up at night, and like fair enough, but like my point is that like whatever path you choose, whether you choose to have it, because I know people that are like that choose to have a bad sleep schedule and they're actually like fine with it, like they're just like they've made peace with like the fact that it's like, yeah, but I'd rather choose this thing that I can only do at night and everything like that. And like I think that that's totally fair. I think that you should do what you want to do. But like what I don't want people to do is be like, "Oh, well, I want like they they make this decision and then they mourn the loss of a potentially good sleep schedule, and they're like, oh, if only I was more disciplined, if only this, if only that, I could be if only all these factors were in place, then I could be like, healthy and stuff. And they like beat themselves up for it. And I'm just like, what you need to do is you actually need to, if you need to write it down, write it down. But like, just whatever you pick, be intentional about it. Like, pick it, like fully commit to it. Like, you don't just get married because like, I guess I'll get married. Like, you do it because you thought really long and hard about it. And you're like, yeah, this is the way I want to spend my life. In that same way, don't like live in this weird middle ground of like famous words of Mr. Miyagi, like walk on right side of the road, safe, walk on left side of the road, safe, walk in middle, eventually get squished like grape, like, all that sort of stuff. So like, don't pick this wishy-washy, like, well, I kind of want to have a better sleep schedule, so I'll keep beating myself up about it, and then maybe it'll just come to me. And then like, other days you're like, no, well, I have to do this and everything. Just like, if your life has to make this sacrifice, then like, don't like keep mourning the loss of it every day, because that's exhausting and it does not contribute well to your self-esteem. If you keep telling yourself like, oh, well, I only do this because I'm irresponsible and everything, just like commit, like, because then you can actually like enjoy the fruits of your sacrifice, because then you're just sacrificing and you just feel fucking guilty. So like, there's no point of that. Next thing you need to do, so also really think about like, why do you go to bed as late as you do? Because I know people that like will be like, well, I stay up late because of this. And then it's like, okay, how long does that last until? It's like, like 2. And then it's like, okay, then why do you stay up till 5 every night if it lasts till 2? It's like, because then I can't really fall asleep. And then like, I just like, I get, I can't really fall asleep. So I just kind of, like, I kind of just doom scroll all night and everything like that. And like, once again, like, oh, Kanato's talking about doom scrolling again, whatever. But like, seriously, this is so important, because like, it is just simply like statistically a growing thing that affects our sleep so much. So like, what people will often do, and I used to do this, that's also why I bring this up. I used to do this. So is I would go on my I would try and fall asleep. I try for like 2 minutes. A bunch of negative thoughts that I've been keeping at bay because I've been so stimulated throughout the day and I've been so avoidant of feeling my negative emotions, they'd all rush up to the surface. And then like, even from the moment I wake up, I would go immediately on my phone. And then from the moment I woke up, I wouldn't have to deal with my negative emotions as bluntly. And so when you do that, you're pushing away the negative emotions until the point that the only way you can sleep is by pure physical exhaustion. And people will do this when they're addicted to technology. They'll like, if you compulsively are like, I can't stop going on my phone until I fall asleep, like I fall asleep by scrolling, it's probably because you like are pushing down a lot of negative emotions and stuff. And like, people will be like, well, my depression's never ending, so it's like this and stuff. And I've talked a lot about how like, regardless of how you feel about how inevitable it is like, as long as you're doing it safely and responsibly, without like in a safe environment and all this sort of stuff, I do not think pushing down your negative emotions is generally a good idea. Because like, it feels endless, but it's because you push them down. Like, you don't push them down all day because they're endless. They're endless because you push them down all day. Because our brain has this natural state of homeostasis where it'll always return to neutral. So people who are compulsively like, well, I need to, I need to run away from my negative emotions, like, because like, they're just endless, and then I'm just gonna go into thought loops and stuff. I'm like, once again, I always give this advice, like, find a dedicated time of the day to have like emotional catharsis, like a crash out, if you will, as long as you're like in a safe environment. Because like, as long as it won't lead to anything bad like in the future, because like, then your brain will stop running from the negative emotions, then you'll get more sleep, and then your brain will actually be better equipped because your frontal lobes, aka like your logic and reasoning, will be able to overpower your amygdala, and your amygdala is your fear center. And the reason why life feels so exhausting is because like you don't get enough sleep to overpower the fear center of your brain. And so like you wonder why like you have all these negative thoughts all the time. And sure, like you could have like clinical depression and things like that, but like it still stands that like, you know, you're not immune to this principle if your depression is like biological or clinical and stuff. Like emotions still work the same way. It's actually like you might be getting a lack of sleep because you have depression, but also like the lack of sleep could also be contributing to the depression or anxiety or whatever. It's just that your fear and stress are going to be hyperactive because your brain needs to recharge the logic center. So that's why you keep internalizing and going into thought loops, is because you don't give in to sleep. And the reason that you struggle to sleep is because you push them down all day through things like social media. So like that is something to think about. Additionally, people who do that sort of thing will often wake up really upset. They'll kind of like wake up and be kind of pissed. And like a big reason for us doing that sort of thing is a big reason for us doing that is the same thing. It's the emotional suppression. So like if you go to bed every night and you and you scrolled to suppress your emotions until you were at the brink of exhaustion, it's like, what happens the next morning? Typically, the emotions come rushing to the surface because you didn't deal with them. Like, people will push away their emotions and assume that they, like, will just go away over time because, like, they should. But, like, you just, like, become numb to them. But, like, there's always a price to pay. Like, I would suggest that, like, pushing down your emotions, if it actually got rid of your emotions long term, would be like generally a good strategy, but that's literally just not how the brain works, like at all. And so, yeah. So like, so the reason that, and so like, there's this big, with sleep schedules, there are these people who take time to boot up in the morning. Like there are people who generally say like, well, I need to like wait a bit, like an hour or so until like my brain like kind of wakes up and then I can do stuff. Until then, I'm just going to scroll. I'm just going to watch TV. I'm going to do all this sort of stuff. And then like the thing is that when I see those people, they also tend to be the most unmotivated. And like, depending on who they are, they'll like either accept this or refuse it. But like, I can't make them accept or refuse any particular thing. But like, but like when people need time to boot up in the morning, this can be caused by many different things because a lot of people just be like, oh, well, I'm just not an early bird and stuff like that. That's part of your circadian rhythm, all this sort of stuff. But I think that lack of tolerance for doing stuff in the morning when you're tired is also like, in my opinion, kind of a symptom of this sort of like chronic, I'll call it like pseudo perfectionism or just perfectionism, depending on where you scale on it. But basically, like, it's just, as a society, we are very intolerant of doing things imperfectly because we always, this is very common in things like ADHD or perfectionists. We're always like, well, it would be more optimal to do it later, so I'm going to do it later. And then what happens is that like these emotions just keep like, is that like then later comes and like you're less tired, but you're also like kind of dead, you know, like you're kind of like, oh, but I like don't want to do it. Like I'm more awake, but like, oh, I don't really want to do it. Like in the morning, it seems like it's almost easier, but then like later you don't want to do it. And that's actually because like, you know, I'm not saying you don't need to have this boot up time. I'm saying that like like I love the phrase like if you're tired, do it tired, because like genuinely I found that like when I'm someone who hates waking up in the morning. I'm like literally like nonverbal for like a couple I go like completely nonverbal for like literally like the first 15-20 minutes of my waking up. Because like my brain is just so overloaded. And that's like by design. Like I actually go to bed very calm and I fall asleep very easily. And I get a good amount of sleep. But like my brain is just very active, so it's got to like boot up. So I get people who do this, but like the mistake is assuming that like because I can't do anything cognitively significant or I feel like it's going to take a lot of effort, I shouldn't do it. So like what I found is that doing things like working out in the morning or even doing something that like is it cognitively depends on what I can do that day. So like a big example of this is like when I would be like, I can't do my paper now because like I'm far too tired to do that. My brain is just not functioning. What I found is that like it's such an overly simplistic thing to do, but like if you put your brain up to the task, it will boot up that part of the brain immediately. And then everything else will be running in the background. But you do not need to have full mental clarity to be focused on that task. And if you don't, it's probably because, once again, you might have a lot of suppressed things that are distracting you. Like top down, bottom up thinking sort of thing. Like you might have a lot of thoughts that are distracting you from focusing on the thing at hand. And, you know, I wake up lethargic and my brain doesn't really work and I have ADHD. So like, and I've had anxiety before. Like I've been diagnosed with anxiety. Like, and so, you know, like I'm not like, it's like a lot of these things that's just like, well, I could have just been like, well, I have ADHD, so I can't do this. Oh, I have this, I can't do this and stuff. But I found that like if you just put your mind to the task, it will actually do it. And so like what I actually recommend is that like so you don't have to do something ultra productive, like write your paper the moment you get up. Like, fair enough. Like, I'm not going to make you do any specific thing because I get that that's hard. But what you guys need to understand is that your dopamine stores are going to be basically full in the morning, which means that the thing that literally reinforces and incentivizes behavior is most plentiful and easy to get in the morning. And so the reason it might be so hard to break the habit of waking up and immediately scrolling on your phone and doing other stuff like that is because when you wake up in the morning and you immediately go on your phone, that is an extremely dopaminergic activity when you already can be having a lot of dopamine. So it's like ultra dopamine when you do that. It's like infinite dopamine. It's like amazing. Like, because like it's like you're getting so much dopamine out of it. But then now by the time you actually get to your work, your dopamine stores aren't as full. So what this means is that it's not only harder to do it then because you don't have that much reward circuitry left, but also more importantly, when you don't do that work, when you do that work, when you're not your brain is going to have less dopamine to reward you with after you complete the task. Even if you force yourself to do it, you're like, I need to do something about it. I need to do something about it. Even if you do it, it's not even going to feel as good as it could have felt had you not done something dopaminergic the moment you woke up. Because think about it. Imagine if like you have all this dopamine stores left in your brain and your brain's got all this dopamine that it wants to give you. And then you do your paper or something of that nature, or you work out or something. And then like your brain, now that you've done a really productive thing, your brain can give you so much happiness and reward chemicals and be like, oh my gosh, that was awesome. You did it. Good job. Like, and then like, you're like, oh, I feel really good. Then tomorrow you're more motivated to do it because your brain remembers how good it felt to do that. So like so when you do this, not only are you arguably screwing yourself for the next day because you pushing through the hard work in the morning isn't even going to be that rewarding because not only did it take a ton of motivation to do, it took a ton of motivation and grit compared to if you just did it immediately or waited. But not only that, not now, even when you do it, your brain is going to see how much effort you put in versus the amount of dopamine you got. And it's going to kind of be like, that wasn't really worth it. Like, we did it and we tried really hard, but like, you know, it like wasn't that like, I'm not like, oh, I'm so happy I did that. Like, it's just kind of like, okay, well, that's done. Like, And so what I'm suggesting is not even that you don't like, that you just do things productive. Fair enough. If you can't do things productive, if you can't productively do stuff in the morning, that's fine. But what I legitimately think is unironically like a better use of your time is just simply to do things that are not dopaminergic. So they don't have to be productive, but like I unironically just think sitting there and staring at the wall and waiting for your brain to boot up is better for you. Like, it sounds like crazy. But like I genuinely think that if you so like, because then what does that do to your dopamine? At least you're not getting rid of the dopamine that you have. And so at least when you don't get rid of the dopamine you have, at least when your brain does end up booting up, you'll actually get a lot of reinforcement for having done that activity. So it's not really about today. It's not really about whether or not you get it done today. It's about manipulating dopamine, doing stuff the moment you get up, so that way it's easier to do tomorrow because your brain is actually going to be naturally motivated. So, you know, most people, the reason I always beat this doom scrolling horse to death, and that's basically like all I talk about, is because what we have right now is like a motivation crisis. Like, everyone's so lethargic and they don't know how to do anything, and they're just like, why is my brain busted? And then my unfortunate answer is always the same. It's like, you probably scroll way more than you should, and now the reason I'm talking about this now is because you probably scroll at the wrong time. Like, if you're gonna scroll, because I'm not gonna tell you to stop scrolling altogether. I know how unbelievably hard that is to do for a lot of people. Like, I'm not gonna tell you to do that. At least if you scroll, do it after you do the important stuff. Not because it's like gonna be better quality or whatever, but just because make life easier on yourself. Because right now, in the cycle that you're probably in with your life right now, it's probably just an infinite cycle of like fun time is easy, and then the hard time is really hard. And then we look at these people who are super productive and they do so much stuff, and it's like, how are they able to do that and I'm not? Am I just like a lazy POS? Like, no. The reason is because you do the fun things at the wrong time. So by the time you get to doing the productive things, you don't want to do them. This is why people who wait until nighttime to do stuff can only do it on like a caffeine binge and stuff. Like, whereas like people who are like whereas like people who are how do I put this? Like, whereas people who do this, like, it's that easy. It's legitimately that easy. You don't have to be internally motivated. You don't have to hype yourself up. You don't have to think of all these reasons. Your brain will naturally do the work for you if you can just push past those initial stages. Because the reason it's so hard to break this cycle and why you give up so much is because your brain has learned that it can get so much easy dopamine if it just does it right away in the morning, because you're going to get like an ultra dopamine rush. But where has that led you? It has led you down the path of like, you have fun and things are easy, but they're not good. Like, you're not having a good time. Like, you're like, why is it like, yeah, I guess it's very fun for the thing. So like, what would you rather have? A life where like, because like you're getting like relatively the same amount of dopamine, which is like crazy, because it's like you're literally giving something up, because you're literally like giving something up for no reason. When you think about the fact that like then later in the day, when you don't have the dopamine left to do hard things, then you can scroll if you really, really want to. I recommend that people just don't scroll, but I understand that that's like telling people just go run a marathon. So, but like, if you need to scroll, I'm not saying you even need to reduce your screen time hours. That's not necessary to do this process. What's necessary for you to do this process is just to simply like do it at a better time. And like the reason you think it's so hard is not because like you're inherently lazy or whatever, or because like you're just a night owl and it's just simply impossible for you to do. I don't buy for 1 second that that's the reason that every time people start doing this that I've seen, it helps immensely. It helps immensely. Obviously, the problems in your life can be multifactorial. Not saying it'll change immediately, but like the thing is that like it'll take so much willpower, and then your brain will be like, we have to do this every day. We're not doing this. This is exhausting. It's going to de-incentivize you to do it. That's the beautiful thing. You don't have to do it every day. That's like how hyperbolic your brain's going to get. That's how much it's going to resist. It's going to be like, oh, we have to do this every day. No, it gets easier. Do you guys get that? Like now for me, doing the hard stuff in the morning is as automatic as I used to pull out my phone. And then beautiful thing happens for the rest of the day. I can guilt-free enjoy the rest of my time playing video games or whatever. Like I play video games for an amount that like people would consider pretty like unhealthy, but like to me, the line between like are video games unhealthy or are they not is one, are you using them as an avoidance strategy, and two, are you dependent on them, and are you like neglecting your daily responsibilities and stuff. But like I'm a productive machine for the first half of all of my days, and then I am an absolute productive beast for the beginning of all of my days. And then like for the rest of the day, I can just chill. And guess what? The rest of my day's still fun, even though I don't have a lot of dopamine left, because like the dopamine I get is easier to get from video games. And so like, that's the beautiful thing about it, is that like, it's like typically in mental health, it's like there's a sacrifice, this for this, this for this. All I'm telling you is that it's hard at first, but actually your life is going to be so much better, even from a dopaminergic standpoint, because you're going to basically end up getting the same amount of dopamine in the day, but you will have just spent it wiser. You will have just done a better job at picking when you do this thing versus this thing. And like typically stuff like that in mental health is so sparse. It's so like, well, yeah, you can quit alcohol, but like you're going to give up a lot of this coping mechanism in exchange for a life that like you're always going to have to kind of putting an effort. Like you're always kind of resisting it. Like the urge to have alcohol never really goes away. I'm saying that like this is one of the most beautiful things in psychology, because when you do this, the craving to do it doesn't actually stay. Like I don't wake up in the morning and do my important stuff and then think like, oh, I really wish I could be like doom scrolling right now, because like what happens in my brain is literally like I get the same amount of pleasure from that. I literally get the exact same like amount of pleasure from doing this sort of thing. And so that's why I'm just like, yeah, there's like no reason to not do that. There's like literally just no reason for you to continue to go about it like this. And so yeah, like and a big part of that is also like a big part of a lot of this is a lot of times like I'll tell people like, and if you're this is going more so back to like if you're like someone who's like, well, no, I can't study in the morning because I'm not going to get any work done and stuff like that. Like I've always noticed that a lot of these sort of people are they're very stuck in this way of like they're very stuck in this way of like, well, if it's not perfect, then I can't do it. Like if it's not optimal, quote unquote, then I don't do it. And then the crazy thing is that like later they end up not doing it anyways. So like it's like, and it's just like, oh, I just should have done it earlier in the day. Why didn't I do it earlier in the day and stuff? So when you wake up in the morning, if you're one of those people who has that type of waking up in the morning where you're just like, oh, well, I can do it later. And then every time you try and do it later, it's harder. Just like notice that part of your brain and notice that it's like trying to skip out on this sort of stuff. And then like that will give you control over time. It might not work immediately, but like control, like awareness is control. Like, I'm not even going to say it's more important than control, because it literally is. The willpower part of our brain is literally the exact same as the awareness part of our brain. But like, we think of them as different things because it feels different. Like, noticing something and having control of it feels different. But like, technically, willpower is kind of like an illusion. It's like you can either be aware of it or you cannot be aware of it. So yeah. Um, so like, just notice that part of your brain that's like, oh yeah, it's telling me that I'm gonna do this later. And like, what's very helpful is also like, journaling is also pretty helpful for this sort of stuff. So you can actually like, if you're really struggling with this and you end up having like, you want to start, like, you really want to get a handle of this, just like journal, like, if you do something, write down why you did it. And if you don't do something, write down what your justification for not doing the productive thing was. And then like, notice what your like like when you what am I trying to say? Um like, figure out why you don't do certain things, and then like, find out later, like, how hard was it to do it later. Because this is a big problem with like ADHD time blindness and a lot of stuff like this, is that like, a lot of people will like, they'll be like, oh well, I'll just do it at this time, and then they're like, when they justify that to themselves, they're like blind to why they, like, they just don't think about why they end up not doing it later. Like, the future is like this weird vague thing where it's like, well, it might be easier to do it later. It probably will be because it's hard right now, so I imagine it's not going to be harder to do it later. And then like, they try to do it later and it is harder. Um and so that's very important to just acknowledge that, like, depending on whether or not you have ADHD, depending on whether or not you're like a perfectionist and stuff like that, your brain might be very intolerant and it might be kind of trying to steer you in other directions so it doesn't have to do something that it's uncomfortable with, which is like, imperfection. But like, any perfectionist like knows that like, any action is better than no action. Like, deep down at least. Like, you might like, you might like cognitively do that, but like, you like know that like, your strategy of waiting until the quote unquote perfect moment, this magical thing that never ever comes, like, or maybe it sometimes comes, I guess that's fair, like, but like, expecting that sort of thing to happen for all of them, you know fully well that like, things just fall through. You can't control the future, so like, it takes the problem with being a perfectionist, that it takes away your power to act now, because it gives you a lot of reasons of why acting now is insufficient. So yeah, like, so overall, when you so like, sleep schedules, very important for replenishing dopamine, for replenishing the logical part of our brain that can fight off the fear and stress part of our brain. It's very important for consolidating memories, especially like if you're a student, if you're studying and trying to learn new things and everything like that. Super important for consolidating memory. If you struggle with that sort of stuff, I would recommend with like memory and everything like that, I would suggest that perhaps like, maybe you don't have an optimal sleep schedule. But I'm not saying that's absolutely it. I'm just saying, like, look into that. Your circadian rhythm is not destined. It'll be more difficult to, like, if you're something like a teenager, because like, you have different biological needs for like sleep and everything like that. But like, even people who really struggle to wake up in the morning can be productive in the morning, and you can pick your sleep schedule. You just have to be intentional about it. You have to like, decide like, am I willing to give this up for this? And like, don't be in this weird middle ground where you're like, oh well, I want to do this but I don't, because I just like, like, and like, just be intentional whether or not you give up sleep to do something or choose to give up that thing to choose sleep. Just be intentional and be like, yeah, at least commit to one or the other so you can fully enjoy the fruits of that path you chose. And like, if you need to, like, literally set a time to like, intentionally think about it really really hard. um and so and so when you uh and so when you And so when you wake up in the morning, no, wait. So first, there's and then notice things that affect your sleep schedule negatively, like scrolling until you're at the point of absolute exhaustion because you never let time for your emotions to come up because they feel infinite. They're probably infinite because you don't let them come up. As long as you're in a safe environment, I recommend, like, not officially recommend, like, do your own research and everything like that, but like I have found a lot of value personally through just putting aside a time in my day for emotional catharsis where I just let everything bubble up. And like then once I do that more, it allows for a lot more productive use of my time because I'm not, what I do is not dictated by what's going to distract me the most, because that typically is the unproductive stuff that you hate that you do all the time. And then when you wake up mad, that's also because you probably go to bed with a lot of thoughts in your brain, and like you wait till the moment of exhaustion, then you wake up super mad because like all those emotions, it's impossible to run away from them. I've never seen someone be able to successfully run away from their emotions by distracting themselves until they go away, because they just don't go away if you distract yourself from them. And then the way that this will benefit you is in the morning, at best, do stuff that's productive, even if it's imperfect or even if you feel like you can't boot up, because from my experience, I've been able to actually boot up despite having all these problems. I have like I had anxiety, I still have ADHD, and I'm the type of person who has a very it takes me a long time to boot up in the morning. But like I still do stuff. I would challenge your idea that maybe you can't get stuff done in the morning, and like worst case scenario, at least you could do something imperfect and then just fix it later, but at least you have like a rough draft, you know? But it's going to be really hard to break this cycle because you have reinforced waking up on your phone every single time. And so your brain's like, no, why would we do the hard thing when we could get easy dopamine? And notice that part of your brain. Notice all these reasons it's going to give to you. But if you can stick it out and you can do something that's not even productive, just something that is not dopaminergic. Like there's productive over here, there's dopaminergic over here. Just do something in the middle that's like even empty if you need to. Like just sit down and stare at the wall for like 5 minutes. But like, or like go for a walk without music. Like without music or podcasts and stuff like that. And once again, people who are scared of their thoughts are going to be like, no, I can't deal with that and stuff like that. Like fair enough if you're like suicidal and stuff like that. But like if you're in a safe environment, try and like just do anything that's safe that allows your emotions to come up. And then what this will do is if you can get in a habit of doing things early in the morning, you will be like all these productive people that you envy, because hard work. You ask them how hard is it to have their morning routine? It's actually really easy. Why are morning routines so easy to do? Because they're reinforced by the dopamine, because you have so much dopamine when you wake up, and there's less and less, and it's hard to get it the further you go in the day. That's why it's such a waste to doom scroll in the morning. But your brain is reinforced to do it, so it's just a habit. But if you could actually break that and just for like a week or two, wake up and just don't go on your phone for a bit and just do anything that's like, and then just start your day off with productive stuff, it will literally reinforce the productive stuff. And it sounds insane, but the productive stuff will be as easy as just pulling out your phone in the morning. It will literally just be automatic. It will be amazing. Like, this is one of the only things in psychology that I think basically has I mean, that's not true. Like, I was going to say, like, it has no, like, downside, but, like, the downside is just at the beginning, like, of trying to start this habit, because you have developed these, like, distracting and dopaminergic cycles for a reason, because you're trying to distract yourself from your emotions, most likely. So you're going to have to confront them in order to have this productive cycle. But understand that it's your avoidance of those negative emotions that's actually controlling what you do. Like, and so, like, if you're someone who like needs to boot up in the morning or doesn't like to do stuff in the morning because like it's not going to be perfect, or you're not going to do your best work and stuff like that, notice how much you actually notice the reasons you don't do stuff, and notice, okay, how good did it end up being later in the day? And if you're truly someone who actually just gets a ton of work done, you have no problems with productivity, and like you do stuff later in the day. One, there's scientific reasons for that, but like they're way more vague, and I'm not as educated on them. It has a lot to do with like adenosine and stuff like that. And so like I think that's the chemical. Anyways, I'm not educated on that part as well, but like if you're genuinely someone who like doesn't have a problem and like they like their sleep schedule, they get enough work done throughout the day, they're happy throughout the day, they're emotionally regulated, then like, I mean, frankly, why are you watching this video? Like, this video is for people who don't do that. So that's kind of, you know, for those of you out there who are like, I am doomed to do this sleep schedule, be intentional about it. Stop letting your running from emotions affect your thing. You'd be shocked at how much emotional catharsis and letting time in your day helps you to not run from it in the future. Once your brain understands, okay, that's the time we're gonna like have emotional catharsis, and then what you do later isn't determined by that. So, but like, if your brain immediately tells you like, well, no, it's not gonna stop after I do that. One, your brain always has this stage of homeostasis, so it's always going to return to normal, and the reason it feels endless is because you're enabling that cycle, because you run away from it. So do it, but obviously do your own research, practice everything safely. This isn't medical advice or anything like that. Don't risk anything on my behalf. And like, and notice like how much you running away from these negative emotions affects your sleep cycle, which then in turns affects what's reinforced in your life and affects your mood throughout the entire day. And this is like genuinely, like, I am so productive, like, not to toot my own horn. It's not like an ego thing or anything, but genuinely, like, I just produce so much output and I have so much fun with every day. Like, I genuinely wake up like Emmett from the Lego movie. Like, I'm just like excited to start every day. And a big reason for that is because like, I just do all the hard stuff in the morning and it's not even hard because it's actually fun to me, because my brain, when I do it early in the morning, it reinforces that activity because I get enough sleep. So I have enough, and I do it right in the morning. So that way I get a big burst of dopamine in the morning. And I'm like, man, that felt great. I'm so glad I did all that stuff in the morning. And then I'm able to go about the rest of my day. And it's great. So I suggest trying this stuff out. Like, give it a try. Like what's the harm it could possibly do? So if you tend to struggle with this sort of stuff, I would genuinely critically look at the way you've been handling things. And like, if you need to like sit with yourself or like get out a notepad or something like that, like write down all these thoughts you're having, like write down like counter arguments your brain has and like really critique them and analyze them and stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of self-exploration to be done. I can't give like blanket advice to everyone because I don't know what's specifically causing you to do certain things, so I can't claim that they're maladaptive. But like, this is just like, there are people in the world who I've helped with this information and that this applies to, and my hope is just to target the people that actually this applies to. So if this doesn't apply to you, I apologize, and I hope you can find something that does apply to you. And heck, if it doesn't apply to you, please comment, and then like we can talk about it. Like I can like hopefully make a follow-up video that's like part 2, like things that I didn't address, or like what to do if like you have this mental issue or stuff like that. What to do if like you're in this environment and stuff like that. Like, we can absolutely do this stuff, but you guys got to let me know in the comments. But yeah. Anyways, if anyone wants to come on the show, please let me know. Comment on YouTube, come in Twitch chat, DM me on Discord, whatever you want to do. Yeah, thanks for coming out.